Just tell me, give me a heads up and
All right, good. We're
We're
recording.
recording.
And what did you say, Bob? Tell you what? It's a
just give me a
recording
heads
in
up when you're
progress
ready to
over
go.
your voice. So what was it you said?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted you to give me a heads up when you're ready to go and I'd hit record, but I've already done so, so
Perfect.
take it away.
All righty. So I am going to, let's see, where is the share screen? And I want to share that screen. And I want to share. And I want to minimize that. And let's see, which one is this? This is 8. I want 7. Where did 7 go? Come on, 7. There's good old 7. And put it in presentation mode like that. All right. How do we look? Everybody see my screen and everything?
Yes, perfect.
Outstanding. Love it when a plan comes together. I'm going to minimize everybody's faces there. All right. So welcome, class. Hope everybody had a great week. I know I did. And I'm looking forward to tomorrow because I got a bunch of vacation days left. So I've taken Fridays off for the remainder of the year. And so tomorrow I'm having some antenna issues, and I think I got water in one of my lines. So I'm putting a new line up today. I got some LMR 400 today, and I'm putting ends on it. And tomorrow I'll be putting that line up. So yeah, I'm having some fun with that. And so cool.
Mike, remember, now you can go to Able Electronics.
That's where I went.
Great.
Yeah, because I was off, I went into work early today so I could leave work at 3 and they would still be open. So, and Fridays the rest of the year, they're open on Fridays, so but they're not open on the weekend. They make me crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's not quite the candy store that you'd have if you went to Ham Radio Outlet or Gigaparts.
Yeah, but it's something. They had LMR 400 and they had 259 connectors, so I was happy.
Great.
All righty, so let's get into the next chapter here, which is module 7, and it's licensing regulations. And I think this was said before. I'm going to say it again. This stuff is a little bit drier. It's not as sexy as propagation and antennas, but you needed to get your license. And some of this stuff over the next couple of chapters, over the next 3 chapters, you really, some of it you don't really need to know because you may not ever do that. You may not ever be on a boat with a radio. But there's other stuff that you're gonna want to know, the safety stuff. I think that's chapter 9. You're gonna want to know that because you're going to be playing with antennas, you're going to be doing stuff, and so you got to be safe. And so we're trying to make this so that you pass the test. And so I'm focusing a lot on the test questions like Bob did last week. I'm focusing on those. I'm going to focus mostly on those questions, and if it spurs questions of things along the way, we can talk about that. I don't want to brush over something that you go, well, wait a minute. That's a piece of interest to me, and it may not have 7 questions on the test, but I'd still like to know a little more. So feel free to ask questions about stuff like that. And if I'm going over it too lightly and you know that you want to dig deeper, please say so. So let's get moving. So licensing terms, and I'm just going to fill my page here. The FCC makes and enforces all the rules for amateur radio in the United States. If you go to that URL there, you can actually download, and if you want to, you can print I think it's 53 pages, because I think I put it in a PDF to make it smaller and more compact on my computer. And I think the PDF was 53 pages, two-sided. So it's a great read if you have insomnia. Feel free to download it and put it by your bed. And if you need it, read it. But there's the rules you need to know. So if you have question, go here, look up the rules. You can put it in a PDF, or you can put it in a form where you can actually scan for keywords and know whether you can or whether you can't, or know whether there's a rule for that or not. Or you can, you can get on the radio after you get your license and find somebody and ask. We are, hams are so nice, I have learned. People want to help. They want you to be better, and they want you to be right, and most hams want you to be legal. So amateur radio is non-commercial. That means you're not allowed to be paid for any services with your radio. Now, there are a few exceptions, but a very, very few exceptions. Like if you're a teacher, a professional teacher, and you're going to teach your students ham radio, well, does that mean during that period of school you can't get paid? No, you can still get paid, because that's, that falls under the exceptions. But what you can't do is you can't say, hey, I got my radio and I know that you needed a message sent to someone, overseas, and you don't have a way to get it there. Give me $5 and I'll send that message for you. No, illegal. Don't do it. So the basic purpose of, I got this thing in my screen here because I'm the one presenting. So let me move this out of my way because it's covering up words. There we go. All right. Basic and purpose of amateur radio service. Hams use various events to train to operate radio equipment in useful ways and to keep their emergency response skills sharp, such as, we'd have contests that go on out there. We have lots of nets that are out there. Many of the nets are pretty loose. I run a pretty tight net for Warren Cert. If you check in for Warren Cert, if you want to talk, you can't just, on a lot of nets, like, that are there for conversation and fun, and they're not saying there's anything wrong with this, but you could just say, this is N8VDZ and I have a comment after you've checked in. And that's perfectly acceptable on a lot of nets. On my net, you have to say net control, this is. And the reason for those kind of nets are because when the real emergency happens, that's how the real emergency guys are going to expect the transmissions to go. So for Warren Cert, the way I run the net there, that's the way we do it so that we're ready when we're ready. And it's practice for the emergency. There's a lot of contests and things that are out there that'll just keep your skills up on your radio. Some people use it because they want to build skills for emergencies and for things like that. And some people could care less. If there's an emergency, I got a radio and I'll be able to communicate, but I don't do emergency, man. It's not my gig. I got my license so that I could talk to people all around the world and make friends. And you know what? That's okay. Don't let anybody tell you that you're using your ham radio for the wrong purpose. Okay? As long as you are following Part 97 amateur radio rules, you can do whatever you want to do on your radio, and you are good. So use it how you like to use it and how you want to use it, and as often or as infrequent as you like. And why isn't this turning the page? There we go. All right, so which agency regulates and enforces the rules for amateur radio service in the United States? It's the FCC and only the FCC. Homeland Security and FEMA are pretty powerful organizations, but the FCC is the only one that does anything with amateur radio rules. Which of the following is which of the following is part of the basic purpose of amateur radio? And it's just advancing your skills in technical and communication phases of the radio art. So notice it doesn't say anything about being ready for an emergency or anything like that. It is an art, and you're practicing your skills for your art how you wish it to be used. All right, so types and classes of license. There's two parts of your license. There's the operator license and the station license. And the operator license gives you the permission to operate an amateur station. It doesn't have to be your station, just an station. The station license authorizes you to have an amateur station that you can transmit on. They don't say that you can transmit on. Anybody can own an amateur station, but all you're allowed to do is listen. When you have your license, you are then allowed to transmit on your station. And you can only have one license, period. You can't have one license because you have a station here, and one license because you have a station on your boat, and one license because you have your station in a car. Nope, it's all the same license, and there's only one per person ever. There's three classes of that license: technician, general, and amateur extra. You will often see, I just lost the fourth license that's still in existence that you can't get anymore. Help me, Bob.
The advanced
Thank you.
or the novice?
Yeah, either one of those. You will see around, like when you look at a band plan, it will have in there stuff for advanced and novice. Those licenses are no longer able to be applied for in the United States. I don't know what they do in other countries. We're only talking US and FCC rules. Those licenses are no longer able to get, but there are still people alive that earned those licenses. And so if they haven't upgraded it to something else, that's what their license is, a novice or an advanced. So they still follow the rules of novice and advanced. So don't be fooled on the test when it asks you a question and you know that, well, I'm looking at my band chart And it says novice and advanced, so it must be technician, general, amateur, extra, novice, and advanced. No, there are only 3: technician, general, and amateur extra. Clubs can also be license holders. And in order to organize a club, you'll need to have 4 members. So if you get 4 people together, or 4 of us from Warren decide, hey, let's do a club, and then we can learn from and do stuff with Hazel Park Amateur Radio Club, and we can play together, and we can learn off each other, and we can do community service together. Yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do that. As long as there's 4 of us, we can organize a club, and it will be official. We'll have our own call sign and the whole works. It'll all be on paper and official. If you only got 3, ain't gonna happen though. When you get your license, it will, when you print it, it will look pretty much exactly like this. And you'll notice there's 2 pieces of it. The top piece is suitable for framing, or you can just stick it up on your wall. I think you're supposed to have it posted at your station. I do have it up on my wall. And I think it is part of the rules too, but I'm not positive of that. The other one, the one on the bottom, is for your wallet. You should always have your license with you. And the reason I say that is because, well, who's going to ever ask me for my license? Well, if the emergency happens and you are prepared and you are ready, and you find out that, there's stuff going on over here, people are mustering over there. And so you go over there and you say, hey, how can I help? And they say, gee, if we only had someone that had an amateur radio license. Well, I do. They're not going to take you at your word. Pull out your wallet, you show them your license. You say, I have a license. I'm a technician or a general or an extra. Here's my license to prove it. And they say, great, we need you over on this radio. And there you go, you're helping. You don't have it in your wallet, you're not going to be used. So make sure you do that when you get it. It's, you'll go on to the site after your license is in the database, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through. And there's a place where you can just download it. And as a matter of fact, the URL is right here, arl.org, obtain license copy. It's really super easy to just say to Google, print a copy of my FCC amateur radio license, poof, and it'll take you right to that page. I just did it a couple of weeks ago. That's why I know.
Hey, Mike, they still mail you an official license in the mail?
They do not.
Is it only downloadable, or they will
Yep,
mail
they
you?
They do not send it anymore.
Okay.
So they raised their rates and they stopped sending you stuff. Thank
Oh.
you, FCC.
Yeah.
So, it is what it is. But yeah, the only way to get it that I'm aware of is, downloading it and printing it.
Okay.
And if you don't have a printer, because I know that some people don't have printers, we can help you. You know my email now.
I'm not sure if this is
Send
skipping
it to
ahead.
me. Send it to me and I'll help you. I'll print it for you. I'll get it to you. I'm just here in Warren. I'm not terribly far from anybody. So we can help you out if you need that. That's not a problem.
Okay.
All right. How many?
Before the test, do we need to go to like any sort of website and get like a federal ID or anything like for FAA licenses?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if that's covered in this part or not.
It's an FRN. If you ask for any information about our license tests, I have a whole packet of information that I send, and it gives you a website that you can apply for the FRN. It's free.
Awesome. Thank you.
Can you just send that to everybody in the class?
I could. I don't know if I have a full list. Bob, can you send me a complete list of all the members, and I'll send a mass.
Will do.
mass thing.
Yeah, because the only way they're gonna know if their license is in the database is if they got that FRN.
Yeah, well, FCC won't do anything for you.
Yep. All right, so how many operator primary station grants may be held by any one person? And it's like I said, only one person. Which license classes are new licenses currently available for? And see, this is what I was saying before. This is where it gets tricky. Just remember, there's only 3: technician, general, and amateur extra. And let me also say this, and just to make sure, as we go through these things, you'll notice that D is the answer here. Do not, as you're taking notes, do not write down that the answer for this question is D. Because on the paper test, it might be A that says technician, general, amateur, extra. So don't go by letters here. Just go by what the real answer is. Which of the following is a requirement for issuance of a club station license? And like I said, the only requirement to get a club going is 4 members. Okay, examinations. So amateur volunteers run the exam sessions. There's a VEC, Volunteer Examiner Coordinators. That's the organization or group. So the VEC is not a person. Keep that in your head, because there's a question on that, I believe. The VEC is not a person. The VEC is an organization or a group that administers exams. The VE is the person. These are individuals, individual amateur radio operators that actually give the exam. So they're the ones that are in the class on exam day, and they're the ones that are overseeing, making sure you're following the rules, making sure no one's cheating and looking over your test, and doing and then grading your exam and shaking your hand and telling you passed.
Yeah. I usually say salute the general when someone passes the general exam.
I like that. That's good. Exams are referred to by elements. And so element 2 is the technician. Element 3 is the general. And element 4 is the extra. And you'll notice there's no element 1 or 0. And that's because they've eliminated that's the advanced, or the one that starts with an N. Novice, thank you. One of those was probably 1. And so 2, 3, 4 are the elements. You'll notice that technician in general have 35 questions on them. And you need 74% or 26 correct questions to pass. And for the amateur extra, it's a whopping 50 questions. And you need the same 74% or 37 correct answers to pass that test. after the test is done, the forms are filed in with the FCC by the VEC. And hopefully that goes quickly. Somebody told me that the last exam that we had, the Hazel Park Amateur Radio Club had, that people were getting in the database like 3 days after their exam day, which is outstanding. When I got my technician 10 years ago, I waited like 8 days or 9 days. And you're checking that database every day. When.
Well,
So
Mike, I can tell you how it works if you want.
yeah,
They have streamlined things quite a bit. What we do now, once we administer the exam, I can take all the forms, all the applications and the test sheets and all that sort of stuff, and I take it over to the library and scan it and have it put into a PDF. Then I can give the PDF to the ARRL VEC, and they're the ones that process the thing and send the data to the FCC. And usually it's not more than a day between the time that they give it to the FCC and until it's entered. So yeah, it used to take around 10 days because ARRL would either misplace or post office was slow or this or that. So it's a lot faster now.
excellent. It's great news. Now, once you sit in the class and you take your test and the VE says, great job, you passed. You're now a technician. That does not mean that you can go home and transmit, unfortunately. You're not allowed to transmit until your name shows up in the FCC ULS database. And so it's real easy to go and search for your license in that database. It itself is kind of slow. You put in your name and then you may wait, a minute, which when you're searching for something on the internet, a minute is an eternity. But it'll either come up and say nothing found, or poof, it will open up to your name and tell you what your call sign is. And then, and only then, at that point, are you allowed to transmit. So what proves that the FCC has issued an operator primary license grant? And that's, like I just said, your license appears in the FCC database. And just for giggles, the easiest way to get there is do a Google search and type FCC amateur license search. And it will take you right to that page. And you just, I think you got to switch it from, there's a drop down and you can search by name, or you can search by the call sign. And there's a couple of things you can search by. You're going to have to drop that drop down and say search by name, because you won't know what your call sign is until you get in there. So, but real easy, real simple.
Yeah, the CSEE form that we give you when you pass the exam, we'll have two websites, the FCC website and the ARRL website, where you could search for your name and call.
Now I have a question.
Yeah.
What distinguishes the three elements, the three different levels of certification? Is it just extra knowledge or what, like
Yes.
what?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, you're going through and you're taking a test for technician.
Mm-hmm.
In order to be a general, you gotta study and learn more. For general, there is a little bit more math and a little bit more that you need to learn. It doesn't get, in my opinion, it doesn't get really hard until you get to extra. And that's where I'm at right now. I'll be taking my exam for extra in December. And the technician and the general were, I had to do some studying. I had to do a little bit of work, but for extra, oh boy, I got to do a lot of work.
It's
And
closer.
it depends on you. I'm in IT, but I deal, I don't deal with electrical. I don't deal with, like, the guy who's teaching the extra class was in the broadcast industry. And so, he knows a lot of this stuff from his career. And so my career touched about 0.5%, 0.25% of what I'm learning, for extra. But
And it's just that you can broadcast on more frequencies, or
and yes,
that's
when
the
you get to
difference.
those higher
That's
levels,
the benefit of doing it.
exactly. And
Okay.
later in this chapter, or maybe the next chapter, we'll talk a little bit about that. So I'll be able to show you exactly what you can do as a tech, and then if you got to general, what you could do as a general, and as an extra, what you do as an extra. So it's just a visual thing that I'll show you, and it's the band plan is what it is, which you've already seen, but we didn't really dig into it very much, which we will. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, cool.
Thanks.
All right, so for your terms of your license renewal, your license is good for 10 years. Now, if 2 years into your license, you say, you know what, I'm a tech, but I want to be on the HF bands, not the UHF and VHF only. I want to do some of that. I want to talk to people in Europe on 20 meter. And so you get your general license, it resets that 10-year at that point. So, as soon as you do anything with your license, it gets a reset. Someone told me if you get a vanity 3 years into your license, that it also resets your license, but I haven't proven that out yet. So I don't know that to be true or not.
Mike?
But what's that?
So every 10 years you have to take the exam again, or it's
No.
just a renewal?
No, you just need to renew. So sorry. I should have said that, but I didn't. But yeah, there's no more. Once you're a tech, you're a tech forever. They just don't want to keep you in the database if you're not using it. So if you're not using it, you're going to forget to renew, and your license will just fall out of the database, and they won't have to worry about you anymore. And someone else can own that license. But you will never have to test for tech again.
Mike, if I can jump in there.
Yeah.
Okay, a very, very sad situation. Back, must have been about 10 or so years ago. I was working with Lawrence Technical University, and they were just on the verge of losing their vanity license, which was W8LTU, Lawrence Technological University. But I organized a new radio club for them. Got people to sign up for it, applied for renewal of the license with a new trustee and so on, and got them their license before the term expired, or the probationary term. I think they'll hold your license for 2 years after it actually expires before they give it to
Yep.
someone else. So anyway, went through all that trouble. They said a year or so after, we don't need you anymore. So I haven't done anything for them. And now their license is up to expire again. And I told them about it, but I don't know if anyone's going to bother.
What a
Maybe I'll
shame.
apply for it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, and let's make that point also. When your license expires, if you decide you want to get a vanity license, you can go to the same site that you're going to go to look for your license, and you can type in a legal, which we'll get into what's a legal license. And if it's owned by someone, that someone will come up. If it's not owned by anybody, it'll say not found. And you can go, ooh, I'm going to apply for that as my vanity license because that's what I want, because it's cool. And, people have different reasons for their vanity license. I had changed mine initially because I wanted, I was just doing stuff for Warren Cert. And so I was Cert 2 in Warren Cert, on our police radios, and on our ham radios, I wanted something 2 also. So I changed my license to W2 MJS. MJS is my initials, Michael J. Slopinski. So I thought that was pretty cool. That's what I got. Then I learned that 2 isn't right. I shouldn't have done 2. And we'll get into that later, because the number that's in your license is really location. Here in Michigan and Ohio, and I think part of West Virginia, we are 8. So you'll notice most of our call signs are something 8, like I am N8 VDZ. Now, my original call sign was KD8 VDZ, no, KE8 VDZ. And I kept tripping over the KE8. It just was a tongue tire for me. So when I learned that I screwed up with the W2 and really wanted to use my license as a ham operator, I did some searching and I wanted W2 MJS, but W8 MJS, but somebody had that. Now, I liked the Victor Delta Zulu, which was part of my original license that the FCC gave me. So I looked up, and I also like N as a starter, N8 VDZ. So that's what I chose, and I got it. No one was using it, so I got it. Why do I have N8 VDZ? Because I like it. Does it mean anything? No. But a lot of people have call signs that mean something to them. And that's cool. If you want to do that, do that. If you want to stick with your original license, do that. There is a fee to change your license now to get a vanity now. So, but back to where we were here with your license, if your 10 years goes by and you don't go in and just renew it, you have to stop transmitting immediately. On that date, you're done. You cannot transmit legally. Your license will sit there for 2 years and no one else can have it. You know, it's kind of like a URL. No one can have your domain name if you own it. And so for 2 years, they'll allow you to sit and ponder over whether you want to be a ham still or not. And if before that 2-year period is up, you can go in and renew your license and you're good to go again. Again, no more tests. You just got to renew it. If that 2 years goes by, you know what? I'm not sure what happens. If that 2 years goes by, do you have to test again?
Yep.
Okay. So there we go. If the 2 years goes by, there's when you'll have to be a technician again. And if you're an extra, I would expect you would have to start back at technician.
No,
Yeah.
there's some exceptions in there. You can get your general if you pass the technician exam that I know about. I'd have to dig a little bit to see what you have to do to regain your extra. But usually people will renew their licenses, especially if they have an extra. Otherwise, unless they're going out the door feet first or something.
Yeah.
And
Um,
we do have one member in our club who took the opportunity to take the vanity call W8 VIP. So that's a very special one.
Wow. I'm surprised they got that.
Yeah.
But I guess somebody had to get it right.
Mhm.
No one else had the hubris to ask for that.
Right. Well, Bob, you yourself, N8 REL. What does REL stand for?
Robert Eric Lauer.
There you go.
Yeah.
Is yours special?
Mine's a vanity, yeah.
No, I mean,
Oh, Jerry's?
Jerry, geez, I lost
Oh.
your name for a minute there.
Yeah,
Is your-
it's a longer story, but I'll tell you. The FCC used to change your call every time you move to a different district. So I started off as KN8DJQ here in Detroit. When I moved to Illinois, I was W9KRG. Moved to Denver, W0MKL. Moved to Salem, Massachusetts, W1FQZ. And then I moved back to the Chicago area and became W9NPI. And at that point, they stopped changing the call letters. And I have a certain notoriety with various lectures and things of that sort that I do. So I decided to keep the W9NPI. And that's from 1973 until now.
Yeah, see, Jerry is our club's token migrant worker.
Yep.
All righty, so let's move on. So there's a URL there to find an exam location.
Yep.
We're gonna help you out with that, with our club exam and stuff. You can go to the ARRL. That is the ARRL site, sorry. So I was gonna say you go to the ARRL site. I thought that was our site at first. But you can go to a lot of places and search for where's an exam. If you're not able to make ours, so they happen a lot. They happen more frequent than you'd expect. And so you can always find an exam within a month or two of today. There's always an exam happening. So to bring to your exam, you want to bring 2 forms of ID, and one of them has to be a photo. That FRN that Jerry's going to send you information on how to get, and here's the URL to go to get your FRN if you wanted to grab that real quick.
What is the FRN? What is that?
Federal,
Ooh,
it's an ID number. Federal registration number?
I think
No.
that's what it is, and it's going to appear on your license once they issue it.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
so
like,
that ties that number ties your ID. So like when you get your ID, that's what ties that.
Yep.
yeah, the FCC really, I think, really recognizes you as an FRN, not as your call sign. So it's like your driver's license has your name, but that number that's on your license, it starts with a. Do they all start with S? Or is that just my last name because it's S?
I think. No, it's just a number. I don't think there's any initials to it.
What are you talking about, driver's license?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it starts with the letter of your last name.
Oh, okay.
Mine
So it
starts
starts
with
with
L.
that letter and then a bunch of numbers.
Yeah, mine starts L600. So.
But that's how the state actually recognizes you as a driver, not by your name. And so same with the FCC. The FCC really recognizes you officially with your FRN number, not your call sign. All right, so the normal term for a FCC issued amateur radio license, we said, is 10 years. The grace period after it expires is 2 years. And that grace period, as I said before, I just want to make this clear, that grace period is not, well, my license is expired, but I got 2 years before I have to stop transmitting. No. The day your license expires is the day you stop transmitting. Those 2 years just guarantees that if you decide to get back into ham radio and want to use your license again, want to renew it, that you can keep the same call sign. And you don't have to do any testing. All right. Oh, and I didn't highlight. If your license has, this thing is in my way again. Go away. All right. If your license has expired and within the allowable grace period, may you continue to transmit on radio bands? No, as we've said before. And I've got a whole bunch of things that have popped up on my screen that won't. Oh, here we go. There's an X. Now they're gone. So no. You must wait until your license is renewed. All right, so after the examination to find your call sign, I think we already went over this pretty well. Jerry told us what's going to happen. And as I said, you're going to go to the FCC site and you're going to search for your name and it'll come up. And I think what we'll do, at the end of class here today is I'll go in and I'll just go to that site and just show you how easy it is. Okay, your responsibilities. Oops. So the FCC requires you to provide and maintain a valid current mailing address and email address. If the FCC tries to contact you and is not able to because they've sent you an email or a letter and you haven't responded, they can suspend or revoke your license. So make sure that if you change your email, that you change it, on the site. It's pretty easy to do. So just make sure you do that. You are obligated to make your station available for inspection upon request of an FCC representative. I don't know why this would happen, except if, there's a complaint about, well, like in the good old days before we were digital, before TV went digital, our signals could interfere with, your neighbor's television. That doesn't happen anymore. But
Mike, I can tell you about something that was fairly current within the last 5 years.
okay,
Right outside Kalamazoo, there was a repeater. And there was a fellow who enjoyed blocking the repeater, broadcasting music on it, and jamming things up and all that. FCC was made aware of it. They did a lot of investigations to the point where they had their truck right outside the guy's house while he was broadcasting the music. So no, they're taking steps. What's that old saying? The mills of the Lord grind slow, but they grind exceedingly fine. So they were just about ready to lower the boom on him, and he escaped by dying. But,
well, I guess that's one way to escape.
yeah. But one thing, as far as your privacy goes, you can use a post office box for your address.
Yep.
Have any of you guys ever met an FCC person, and what would they look like? Like, how would you know? Like, how would I know if an FCC person were to be like real? I mean, I get the paper, like there's a mail or something, but like,
I'm sure just like
think
with
they
any
have horns and a
representative from
cheap suit.
anything, you better have ID.
Yeah, they have credentials.
I can chime in something, Mike, real quick on that. Back in the days when I had my 5-watt Radio Shack walkie-talkie, and I sent in my $5 and I got my license, and I was out in front of my house by the street talking to my buddy that was down the street and see how far it would go. A black car was coming down the street real slow, had a bunch of antennas on it, and smoked windows. I'm looking at this thing, and this car stopped right at the curb in front of me. The window came down. All I seen was a bunch of monitors and equipment in there. And I was shaking like Don Knotts. I'm like, whoa. And then he said that was the FCC. He asked me if I had a license for that, which I did. And they were in the area looking for high power radio stations on 11-meter CB band, because there was a lot of them back in the days that put out a tremendous amount of power, and they would just, kill everybody's radio. You could only hear them, and that's it. They'd key their mic and read a book, but that's what they were doing. So you will know if they're in town, and they'll find you.
Yeah. But I have personally never had a visit from the FCC.
I think they said they were a crew monitor or something, crew monitor service, and they worked out of downtown. Used to be in the Penobscot building.
Yeah, and I don't know, money's tight in every agency, and so I think the only time that you're probably gonna see or hear from the FCC is if somebody is doing something nefarious and there are complaints.
Yeah.
I don't think the FCC has enough money to just send people wandering around looking for people using amateur radios illegally.
Right. probably not nowadays, but
Yep.
Oh, right.
back then there was fewer radios, and like I said, there was some high power stuff out there for sure.
Well, we have something like 770,000 hams in the United States, and we are kind of self-regulating.
Yeah,
we-
yeah, we police ourselves.
Yeah, we police ourselves, and well, they trust us enough to give us responsibility for doing the license testing.
And, you know, I'm a rules guy myself. If I'm breaking the rules, man, and I don't know it, somebody ought to tell me, because I don't want to break the rules. And being that I'm that way, don't break the rules around me.
Yeah.
Because I will tell you, stop that.
Okay, Mike, ARRL has reestablished observer stations. And,
Oh, really?
yeah, they do stuff like that, to monitor the bands, and they'll send you a friendly postcard or something like that.
Well, that's good. That's good, because, you know, over the last 2 years that I've been been trying to be active, I have heard a couple people that need to be reported. You know, I hear them and then I never hear them again. And so, you know, for me, it's been, well, that's okay. You know, because they're gone now. But I know that I've heard conversations from other people. Oh, that was that guy again. It's like, oh, really? Again? Wow.
Oh, the guy
And
on 10 meters.
So it happens out there. You know, just, I'm asking you guys, please don't be that guy. If something makes you mad, if somebody does something that makes you mad, please don't take it out on the rest of the hams. You know, especially, you know, even if it is a ham that has made you mad, don't take it out on the rest of us. You know, that's not fair. It's not right. And if you get caught, you're without a license. You're done. Your license and your equipment. If they catch you, they will not only strip you of your license, but they'll also take your equipment too. And so, you know, if you've just spent a couple $1,000s on a couple of radios, it's going to be a sad day for you. Just because you were mad. So don't be that guy, please.
That dead guy was on the hook too for between $7,000 and $14,000 in fines. So they've got teeth.
Yep. All right. So what happens if the SEC is unable to reach you by email? Revocation of your station license or suspension of your operator's license. Now, does that mean it's gonna happen if they send you an email and you happen to miss it and don't respond? No. They'll try to, I'm sure they'll make due diligence to try to reach you, but they're not going to try monthly for 2 years to try to reach you and then take action. It will be sooner than that. Or if they try to reach you and someone says, nope, there's nobody here by that name, I don't know what email address you got. So, you know, if you're concerned about, you know, it's the government and I don't want to give them my email address, you know what? Create a new account, use that email address only for ham radio, and just make sure you check it once a month. So that if the FCC is trying to get a hold of you, you can respond back. But then that's the only email address that they're going to have. And you don't have to worry that Uncle Sam's spying on you and looking at your emails, because they won't have access to your regular emails. You know, most people don't go that far, but if you need to, go ahead. All they want is an email address they can reach you at. Which of the following can result in revocation of your station license or suspension of your operator's license? And like we just said, failure to maintain a correct email address with the FCC. So, and as you notice, there's several questions on this. So you're likely to get one of them. You know, so keep that in mind, that your answer, you know, all these other answers for failure to copy your license at your station, or failure to inform the FCC of any changes to your station, you know, no. It's all about your email address. So all the correct answers for these ones are your email address. That's what you want to watch for. Band privileges. Okay, so here's what we were talking about earlier. We're going to get into that band plan that we were talking about earlier. So there's hundreds of bands and dozens of different types of radio spectrum users. The frequency privileges are granted in various services are called allocations. Most of the bands used by technicians are 6 meter, 2 meter, 70 centimeter. And 6 meter is pretty small, not used very much that I'm aware of. 2 meter, 70 centimeter are used a lot. Those are where all your, and I'm going to say all, it's not really all, but most of your repeaters are 2 meter and 70 centimeter. And so that's where you're going to be getting on your nets and, you know, talking to your friends in this area. I notice, oh, this is most common bands. You also can talk in the 10 meter band, but only in a limited piece of it. And we'll get into that a little bit more as we go. So, you know, these are telling you, you know, some of the privileges that you have as a technician, and, you know, where you can speak in the band. So like 70 centimeter, which I said, you know, is one of the more common ones. So 430 megahertz to 450 megahertz is where you can do all your, you can do, you know, any form of communication you'll like in there. And then the 2 meter band from 144.1 to 148 megahertz is where you can do most of your communications there. But in the 6 meter band that they're talking about, you know, you got this very small window to 50.1 to 54 megahertz that you can talk in. And I'm going to go to the next. Okay, so there's our 10 meter that I was talking about. And 10 meter, 28.3 to 28.5 is your small little piece in the 10 meter band, and it's only single side band in CW. So
but it's very hot, and there's a Mike, it's very hot nowadays, and you can talk to China and various other countries on that little part of the band.
I was not aware of that. That's cool to know.
Yeah.
Until recently, I've been scanning from 28.3 all the way to 29.7 and not finding a peep.
Depends
and until just
on
recently, it's like, oh, now all of a sudden I'm starting to hear people on the band.
Mm-hmm.
So cool. Good to know. Now, as you're looking at this is what I use all the time. And this is, I think, what a lot of people use. You know, over here is your little key that's important to you. And a couple of key words that confused me when I was a tech. Phone. What do they mean, phone? What does phone mean? Microphone. You know, so it's talking. So that's what phone means, talking on your radio through your, through your microphone. But you use this key over here, and like we look in this 10-meter band up here, and you can see that for extra, amateur, and general, well, they can do anything. They're, in the, they can use phone on, from 28.3 all the way to 29.7, but for technician and novice, you're only allowed that little yellow piece. And it's, it's only phone. It's only single sideband phone. So, just pay attention to the letters that are off to the side, off to the right of each band. And on the right-hand column that starts at the top with 10-meter, that's kind of where technicians are, that whole side. Anything left of that, with exception to CW, you're not allowed any place to the left of that. When you get your general license, as you were asking about, I don't remember. I don't have the pictures up, so I can't grab your name back up. But you were asking about when you're, when you get another license, can you speak more? Yes. And you can see, like, if you look at the 20-meter, which is right in the center of the screen, if I'm a general, which is what I am, on the 20-meter band, I can only talk from, frequency of 14.225 megahertz to 14.350 megahertz. But when I get my extra, I can, go all the way from 14.15 all the way. So I can speak in the whole 20-meter band. Right now, I can't do that. And I think I said this a couple of weeks ago. I was, actually on the 20-meter band, and I made a contact with someone, and I went to log it, and I looked up at my frequency, and I was at 14.170.
Ooh, shame,
Oh
shame,
my
shame.
gosh, I was not legal to speak there. Holy cow. So you know what? I might get a little nasty gram letter shaking their finger at me. I don't expect they're going to revoke my license because I did that once. If the FCC found out. But
be a bigger fish to fry.
But we got to be careful. We can't just, it really made me pay attention. As I'm scanning through the frequencies, just trying to make context during a contest, pay attention. I'm getting my extra so I can pay less attention. It'll just make it easier. So I'm open to everything everywhere. So you just got to be careful. This, by the way, is in your book. You could just put that on your, copy it and print it out, but it's in black and white, not as nice. You can go to the ARRL website and pop this up on your screen and print it out. They'll send you a nice copy of it. It's kind of a cardboard, I think. So it's thicker, it's glossy, it's pretty, but it's the exact same thing for a nominal fee. I don't know what the nominal fee is because I won't pay for it. There's, you know, there's lots of places that you can get this picture, you know, and just print it out and just put it next to your station so that you know.
Are
You know,
there gonna
where can
be,
I go? What can I do?
I'm sorry, are there gonna be specific questions on the actual megahertz?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yep,
how,
we're coming up on those and
okay, all right,
maybe on the next screen. So yes, and I'll give you a little bit on that in a few minutes to help you out with those questions. And look, what do you know? Here we are. So some of these you're just going to have to devote to memory. I don't have a way of telling you, you know, there's no mnemonic I have or anything that I can tell you that you can pick up your microphone and talk on 28.3 to 28.5, but you can't on 28.1 to 28.3. I don't have that. So you just kind of got to devote some of these things to memory. And that's where those practice exams come in. You know, doing the practice exams, this, you know, it'll help lock that answer into your memory. Now, when we get to here and it says which frequency is in the 6 meter band, well, there's a really simple formula. If you can simply remember that 300 divided by the wavelength, 6 meter, or the frequency, the 300 is always the number, 300 divided by the frequency in megahertz, you know, that will give you your answer. But it's a little, it can be a little tricky, especially on this one. This one, they're trying to trick you up a little bit because if I say 300 divided by 6, it's 50. So what's the right answer? 49 or 52.525? Well, 49 is outside the 6 meter band. It starts at 50. So and I think, is it exactly 50?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep. So, you know, you got to be careful on this one, but if you do the math and just know that, okay, so if I did, you know, 300, and you can just write, I mean, this is simple algebra that you can do with a calculator. You could do this longhand. It's simple numbers, 300 divided by 6. I'm sure you could do that longhand pretty easily. You get to that 50, and you just got to remember that, oh, okay, yeah, so inside the 6 meter band, if 300 divided by 6 is 50, then I want to be inside it, so 52. Go to the next one. And this one's kind of asking you the opposite way. Which amateur band is includes 146.52 megahertz? So now we're going to say 300 divided by 146.52. And our answer is then going to be 2.04. Well, there's no question there. 2 meters, your answer. You know, so it's not like the one before, well, gee, 49's pretty close. Is it 49 or is it 52? You know, that's the one that might give you some consternation. This one, if you can simply remember 300 divided by either the frequency or the band, or the band, 6 meter, 20 meter, whatever, that will give you that. And if you do the math if you go to the band plan and you do that 300 divided by, 20 meter or 6 meter or 70 centimeter, they're really not all exact. Okay. We call it 6 meter, not because every frequency in that band is exactly 6 meters. It's that it's pretty darn close to 6 meters. Okay. So I don't want you to get caught up in the, well, it's not exact. So what do I do? No, it's never going to be exact. Okay. It's always going to be a little. So, this one here, 20.204. And the band is called 2 meter, not 2.04 meter. Okay. So these ones should be pretty easy if you can just remember 300 divided by. And for this one, it's 300 divided by the frequency. And in this one, it's 300 divided by the band. And that may be the only two that you'll have to remember that math for. I'm pretty sure it is. Okay, on which HF bands does the technician class have phone privileges? And everything on here is HF except 10 meter. And you don't have phone on any of the HF. But you do on 10 meter. Now 10 meters in here, in C, but you don't have privileges to 80, 40, or 15. Okay, so just remember, the 10 meter band is the only one. Okay, emission privileges. An emission is the formal name for any radio signal from a transmitter. So when you key up and you talk into that microphone, there's an emission. An emission privilege is permission to communicate using a particular mode, either phone or CW or data or image. And then beacons are, for technician are, 10 meter between 28.2 and 28.3 megahertz. And again, that band plan is going to help you with that. I'm not sure if there's a specific question about beacons and their frequencies or not, but we'll find out because I have all the questions in here. And if there are, we'll try to find a way to help you remember how, that's it for 10 meter. How many amateurs use 219 and 220 megahertz segment of the 1.2 meter band? And it's for fixed digital message forwarding systems only. And like I said, a lot of these type questions is that you're just going to have to devote to memory. And again, practice exams will be how these ones get locked into your head. I remember when I took it, I simply remembered fixed digital. I didn't remember anything else. I didn't care to remember anything else. I remembered fixed digital. And when I got to this question, I saw the answer fixed digital and I knew that was it.
And like you said earlier, Mike, there are some of these privileges you have that you're never going to use. I mean, it's like I've been a ham for 18 years. I've never even been on the 220 band.
Yeah.
It's very underutilized now.
Yeah.
But it's on the test, so you got to know it. Which of the following, man, this thing is, how do I get this out of my way? I'm moving it down there. Okay. Which of the following UHF, VHF band segments are limited to CW only? Still in my way. Okay, there we go. Oop. And I don't have that highlighted. I think that's A is the answer for this one. 50 megahertz to 50.1.
Yeah, that's for a weak signal, they call it.
Yep. And again, you may never, ever, ever do CW at all. No, I never have. I don't know if I will. I may not. I don't know. But it's on the test, so you just need to know it.
It's for all
And
those
this is
people,
one
like
of
all
those
those
ones
people,
that
yeah, like all those people who hate turkey stuffing, all the more for me.
there you go.
Since I work CW.
Yeah, see, and that's true. The more people that are using it, the less, the less space we leave for the people that really want to use it. So, good point there. Power limits. And I need to. Oh, I got this stupid bar. And I have to keep moving it around my screen. And I guess
Is it like the bar that comes around the top where it shows like mute and everything like that?
It's the bar. Yeah, it has mute, stop video, security, participants, all that stuff.
Yeah, far right there should be like a little down arrow, and if you click that, click on hide floating meeting controls, and that should get it out of your way.
Oh, there it is. That's the one I want. Thank you. Thank you. I've been playing with this all day and been killing me. All right, so power limits. Output power for transmitter or amplifiers is defined in terms of peak envelope power, PEP, PEP. You're going to see answers on the questions on the thing where answer is going to say PEP. It's not going to say peak envelope power. It's going to say PEP. But so you can remember what peak envelope power is, PEP. Amateurs are allowed to use a full legal limit of 1500 watts PEP, but there are some exceptions, like below 30 megahertz. Novices and technicians are only allowed to use 200 watts PEP on HF bands. And so that would be is 10 meter HF?
10 meters HF.
Okay, I wasn't sure where the number line was. So yeah, if you're on 10 meter, that's where you're, oh yeah, below 30. Duh, what an idiot. So yeah, 20, 28, and 30 is 10 meters. So if you're on 10 meter, you're only going to be able to use 200 watts. And if you're new, you're probably not going to be burning more than 200 watts anyway. I've learned that equipment that, to get above 200 watts, is costly. So the little handhelds that a lot of technicians start with, those are 5 and 10 watts. So, and you don't need a lot of power. I think we already talked earlier in one of the previous chapters, you should use the lowest power that you can. You shouldn't just crank your power to maximum and always leave it there because I want to make sure I can get out. No, you should use the least amount of power that you can to get the message to where you need it. What's the maximum peak envelope output for technician class and HF band segments. And as we just said, that's 200 watts. Except for some specific exceptions, what's the maximum peak envelope power output for technician class operators using frequencies above 30 megahertz? So that's your 70 centimeter, your 2 meter, where you're going to spend a lot of your time. Even if you're a extra, you're still going to probably spend a lot of your time in 70 centimeter and 2 meter. I know that Bob and I spend a lot of our time there. So 1500 watts is your answer there. Primary and secondary allocations. So many amateur bands are exclusively allocated to hams. Occasionally, there are some services that share allocations. One group is generally given priority, and they're called the primary allocation. And then the lower priority is called secondary allocation. The primary service is protected from harmful interference by signals from the secondary service, meaning if the primary service is using the band, you don't. If you're using the band and the primary needs the band, you need to stop using the band. We're going to talk about that a little later. That isn't normal for amateur radio. That's just special with these primary and secondary allocations. And if you want to see a list of frequency sharing requirements with US hams, you can do that on the ARL.org site, and you can search for that in the Part 97. It's Rule 303. So how are US amateurs restricted in segments of bands where amateur service is secondary? And as we just said, amateurs may find non-amateur stations in those segments and must avoid interfering with them.
Mike, there are two bands, technicians can't really use them that come to mind first. There's a segment called 30 meters, which is 10.1 to 10.150 megahertz. That's CW and digital only. And we are secondary on that. If a government station of any sort comes on, we're not supposed to interfere. And then there are 5.3 to, I think, 5.5 megahertz or thereabouts. That's the, is that 60 meter band? Which are sort of channelized. And we're sort of at sufferance. If government stations are on, we don't interfere. So you're not going to find that. You might find some restrictions, which you'll get to on I think 420 to 450 megahertz band. You have to share it with some navigation types of things. Okay.
All righty. Thank you, sir. Repeater coordination. And so hams have developed a system of regional frequency coordination to ensure that repeaters use amateur bands widely and avoid interference to the greatest degree of possibility. This is not FCC controlled. This is us, making sure, we're playing well with ourselves. So, there's a repeater here in Warren, 443550 KA8WYN. It's a repeater in a gentleman's backyard here in Warren, up on a tower. And if I decide I want to put up a repeater here, I need to make sure that, you know, I don't interfere with him. You know, we gotta play well together. And so we police each other. Anybody can put up a repeater. You know, so that may be part of your interest. You know, we were talking earlier before class about antennas and how much fun I have with antennas. You know, I'm 61. If I was 20 years younger, I probably would be considering a repeater, just because I think that'd be fun to put up and fun to have and fun to maintain, and, you know, fun to be able to say, hey, ham community, there you go. But I'm too old to climb, so I'm not going to do that. But so we just have to be good to each other. We have to be careful with each other, and you know, not step on each other, and be nice. Repeater input and output frequency pairs are fixed and have a common offset in each region. As you said before, when you key up on a repeater, you know, it receives on one frequency and transmits your signal or repeats your signal on another frequency. So when you set up that repeater on your radio, you set it at a frequency, but then when you transmit, you can physically watch the frequency change on the screen of your radio, because it's switching to the receive frequency at the repeater site. And so those are set in pairs, so that, you know, it's just coordination. It's keeping things nice and neat for the ham community. There's a committee of volunteers known as frequency coordinators that recommend transmit and receive frequencies. Frequency coordinator representatives are selected by local regional amateurs whose stations are eligible to be repeater stations. And then uncoordinated repeaters are strongly discouraged because they often cause interference. And like I say, we don't want to do that. Is it against the law? No. Is it just not neighborly? Is it not kind? Is it not right? Yes, it's not. Don't do it. So,
Mike, I got a question here about the repeater thing. If I take a second, without getting off too far. Say I'm using the mobile and using the repeater. I key into a repeater. So I'm driving down the road. Say I'm going to Cincinnati. Now, when I get out of range out of one repeater, how do I know where the next one is? Am I going to have to look that up in a book to see where I'm at and see what the nearest one is and dial that frequency in?
correct.
As I'm driving, or
Yep.
pull off to the side?
Oh, don't do it while you're driving.
No, I think I pull off to the side.
And the reason is, not only most repeaters, not only do you have to find the right frequency, but you also have to set the tone. And depending on the radio, some radios, it's pretty quick and easy to set the tone. Other radios, it is not so easy to set the tone. You got to go here, you got to go there, you got to do this, you got to do that.
Mhm.
So it's not something that you can or will do while driving. If I was taking a long trip, let's say I was going to drive down to Disneyland, I would plot my course, and from my easy chair here in Warren,
Mhm.
I would find all the repeaters. I would program my radio, and then I would hit the road.
Okay,
And now all I got to do is change to a different frequency. It's like, just like changing the radio in your car. Most, a lot of radios will have, every radio will have a memory. And so I would set it up so that memory 1 is my repeaters right here. And then memory 2 is the next set of repeaters as I'm, getting
I got it. So you got to plot
past
your course,
Monroe.
right?
And then when I'm getting into Ohio's memory 3. And then when I'm coming back, memory 57 is where I'm going to start, and I'm going to end up counting down back to 1.
Yeah. I kind of want to get something set up because I go to Cincinnati and back as a regular basis. So I'm going down. I'll have something set up, and I know I pass a big station down there. Yeah, at Finley. At Finley Radio Club and stuff, their antennas are all over, and I stare at them every time I go by there. It's crazy.
Yep. So yeah, that's how I would definitely do it, is by, setting myself up ahead of time.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be stopping alongside the road every hour,
right?
Less.
Yeah, I was curious about how you find each one. So it's obviously I know there's books out there. It's got the repeater directory.
Yep.
So
you got to be careful. You got to be careful, because when was that repeater directory published?
Right. I say it's going to be a new one when I do it.
The repeaters go offline pretty regularly.
Okay.
Well,
Can't guarantee it's up.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's still around, but a few years ago, somebody did publish some software that had every repeater in the United States, and you could actually plot your route, and it would tell you which repeaters, and you could actually put it into your equipment. I'm not sure whether it's still around. That's
cool, like a repeater triptych. I like it.
Yeah, it'd be nice. Technology. Okay, thank you for that.
No problem. All right, so which of the following entities recommends transmit receive channels and other parameters for auxiliary and repeater stations? And that's the Volunteer Frequency Coordinator, and they're recognized by local amateurs. And who selects a frequency coordinator? And I didn't highlight this one. It's C, it's amateur operators in local or regional areas whose stations are eligible to be repeater or auxiliary stations. So just remember, for this one, it ain't no one official. So A and D in this particular set are out. They're FCC. So if you're not sure, you can at least cut 50% of these out. It's no one official. These people, well, they're kind of official. I should say not governmental. These people are officially designated by local amateurs, but they're not a government entity. So that'll help you to remember, which is the correct answer. International rules. Now, being that we live here in Michigan, we're right across the border from Canada. So this has a little bit of, but not a whole lot that you're going to have to, unless you're really traveling overseas, this is where this is really going to affect you. But again, questions are on the test. So you're going to need to know the answers when you get to them. So every country has its equivalent to the FCC. You know, ours is called the FCC, but who knows what it's called in Belgium? I don't, but Belgium has an equivalent to it, and they make their own laws there. The ITU, International Telecommunications Union, coordinates all these countries across the international borders. The ITU divides the world into 3 regions. The US is region 2. And I didn't realize this till now. I didn't remember this, I should say, except for some territories in the Pacific are region 3. And it says territories, so I don't know where they're talking about, but I don't think it's Hawaii. I'm expecting it's probably, you know,
Guam,
like Guam, yeah.
Marshall Islands.
Yep. But most of the US is region 2. So if someone, so when you get asked what region we are, we're 2. Unless specifically prohibited by the government or other country, any ham can talk to any other ham. So you are okay to, you know, pick up your microphone and get on 10 meter and talk to someone in China for the most part. The FCC can prohibit contact between US citizens and those of specific countries by notifying the ITU of its objections. So there might be a country out there, and I'm sure there are, I don't know what they are offhand, but I'm sure there's countries out there, excuse me, where their local leader has said, no, we will not have hams. You know, I don't want that kind of communication. I don't want our privacy going out. You know, this is our country and they can't know what's going on here. And if they say so, they inform the ITU, and you're not really allowed to talk to them. Now, if someone from that country picks up a microphone and starts talking, and you start talking to them, I don't know what that means.
Well, Mike, the example that I use is that a guy talked to me. He said his brother-in-law is in North Korea negotiating with the government to sell certain high-quality electronic parts. I think they're to trigger atomic bombs or something like that. And he'll pay me $500 if I contact a North Korean radio station and give him the prices. And my question is, how many of these regulations have I violated if I do this?
Well, at least 2, because I think North Korea is on the no call list, right? And you're also selling, doing business.
Right, and what you'll get into third-party communications soon, I'm sure.
Yep. But so, you know, like it says here, it's uncommon, but you know, like I say, if you're on your radio and someone says CQ, 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 this is some call sign, and you respond to that, and they happen to be in a country that has told the ITU, I don't want you hams talking to my people in my country. Ham radios are illegal in my country. Well, that guy's breaking his own country's laws. And I don't know if you can get in trouble if you talk to them. You know, I don't know what the penalty would be if, but how do you know? I mean, it's just over the air. So, but I wouldn't worry too much about it.
But I suppose, why would you want to be involved in that conversation?
Well, as a ham,
Uh-huh.
when somebody says CQ, 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 this is such and such a call sign, There's no regulation anywhere that says I need to say where I'm from.
Right. But if he's,
So
but if
now
he's
I'm having
saying,
a conversation with you. I don't know where you're from, and we're just talking.
but if he's saying, how can we, I want you to help me sell these triggers.
No. Forget that example. Forget that
thinking that.
example. This is somebody that just said CQ, which means, hey out there. CQ means, hey out there. I'm looking for somebody to talk to. Please call me back.
Yeah.
And
No,
that's
it
all it
sounds,
means. So
no,
if
it sounds
somebody
like,
does that and they're just talking, hey, how are you? The weather's fine here. How's the weather there? Where are you at? I'm in Michigan. Yeah, what's the weather like in Michigan today? And what you have for breakfast and what tell me about your radio and tell me about your antenna system and tell me what you got, because that's what a lot of hams like to talk about. You're just talking. You're
now,
not.
if you're stating your station, like, you've got the number 3, you're in Pennsylvania or somewhere around that.
Yep.
Are like, we know how I've got the map of the US here, but do we know this, is it broken out that way with other countries?
Yes. Yeah.
So is that something that tells you?
You can find out by looking up their call sign, by the the letters in the call sign, the first 3 or 4 letters of that call sign, what country it's the origin is. But does everybody do that? I know that I
Yeah.
do it sometimes. But I'm just letting you know that it's there. I wouldn't worry too much about it because I doubt that it happens very often at all. But it is what it is.
Mhm.
What type of international communications are FCC licensed amateur radio permitted to make? And communications incidental to the purposes of amateur radio service and remarks of personal character. So that means you're not selling nothing. You're not, I guess that's really the only one that I really worry about is you're not selling nothing. The other ones, the other answers here are just, conducting business in B, so that we know that's wrong because you're conducting business. Only communications of incidental to contest exchanges. Well, wait a minute. If I can only talk on the radio about contests, then why would I ever try to contact somebody overseas? So we know that one's wrong because it's only contest stuff. And then communications that would be permitted by an international broadcast station. Well, wait a minute. We know that's got to be wrong because an international broadcast station, that's professional. That's not us. So that's how you can determine A is the only real answer there. Which countries are the FCC licensed amateur radio stations prohibited from exchanging communications? And we talked pretty heavy about this one. That's countries that have told the ITU no. So any country whose administration has notified the International Telecommunications Union that it objects to such communications. International operating. What time is it? Ooh, I got 10 minutes. Yikes. I think I'm close here. Yes, I'm very close here. Okay, I can make it. And I have to reclose this thing because now that I did that, it opened up this bar again. All right. International operating the foreign country must permit aperture operations. Like we said before, some don't. You must have permission when you're inside a country's international boundaries and terrestrial waters. You're required to operate according to their rules. You may be a technician here, but their rules may be different. In Canada, they don't have a technician. They only have one license, and it's equivalent to our extra. So, if you go into Canada, you're still going to follow your technician rules. But let me use a different example. If you were in Canada and you had that license there and you came into the US, you might be limited on what you're allowed to do because they have a license that has everything. And here we have different levels of license. So you have to find out what that country has for licensing and find out as a technician, because you still have to operate as a technician, but make sure that those rules fall inside of what that country allows. Did I say that? Did that make sense?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. You may also operate from any vessel or craft that is documented, registered in the United States. If the vessel is in terrestrial waters, regulations of the host country and those of the vessel's registries both apply. So just got to be careful of that. We're in Michigan and lots of water and lots of people have boats. It's real easy to be in Canadian waters. So you just got to be careful what you do, where you're at. Which of the following locations may an FCC licensed amateur station transmit? And from any vessel or craft located in international waters and documented or registered in the United States. That is your correct answer for these. Again, if you've taken the test questions, you can look at those other ones and try to determine why you wouldn't want to pick those other ones. I'm just going to whip through these and give you just the correct answers so that we can be done here. Call signs. You're going to get your call sign. And this is where I had made my mistake before when I did mine. So the call sign has a prefix and a suffix, and then it has that number in between the prefix and a suffix. And when you get your license, you're going to get a Group D license. And so it's going to be what's known as a 2x3. You're going to have 2 letters, a number, and 3 letters. So 2 letters, a number, and that number will be 8. 2 letters, 8, 3 letters. And the first 2 letters are usually the same. For a while, and the last 3 increment up, alphabetically. And so when the 3 letters run out, the second letter goes up another one.
Yeah, Mike, at this point, we are running out of the KE8 numbers. We're in the KE8 Z numbers. So I imagine that by the time our students here take their exams, they might get a KF8.
Ooh.
AA8 through whatever.
Wouldn't it be cool to get KF8 AAA?
Yes.
I'm hoping for you guys. I'm rooting for you guys. That'd be a fun one to have. All right. Or ABC, or, just something cool. Anyway, so you can find this in your book, and you can look at this and digest this a little bit for what you can get for your vanity call sign if you so choose to pay for. Yes, if you want a vanity, it's going to cost you, I think, $35. It used to be free, not anymore. And it'll take about 7 weeks or 8 weeks from the day you put your vanity in, request your vanity and pay for it, to the day you get it. It takes forever. So just so you know that. And here's what I was talking about with the numbers. You can see Michigan, we are 8. And in Michigan, Ohio, and it looks like all of West Virginia. I thought it was part of West Virginia. Michigan, Ohio, and West Virginia are all 8. And so, I had chose that 2 because I thought that's what I want. And then somebody asked me about, you got your license in New York? I went, no. And then I looked up and, I see why they were asking me, because I'm an idiot. Okay. So anyway, you can do anything you want. I could have kept it W2 MJS, and that's okay. But I want people to know that I'm from Michigan. So, or from this area, I should say. So that's why it was important for me personally to make that correction. You can have it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 0. You can make that choice, and as long as it's not used by somebody else, you are good to go.
Oh. I have a question. Because I had been how long have they been doing this numbering system? Part of my curiosity is I was wondering if I could find out what my grandfather's old number would have been, and would he have had a number in this system?
Yes, he probably would have. And like he said a little while ago, he's you're K9.
What? Me?
Oh no.
Kim,
Jerry.
When did your
you're W9.
Yeah, I'm W9. Kim, when did your grandfather have his license?
Well, he passed about 20 years ago, so I'm sure that he's been I'm sure he passed that 10-year mark already.
Okay, if you go to a website like archive.org and look up radio amateur call books.
Radio amateur call books. Okay.
Okay, these are sort of like telephone directories of ham radio operators, and you can pick a year where you think your grandfather was operating, and you can find you can probably find his call.
So I wouldn't be banned from having one that has a 3 in it then.
Correct.
I have family there, so.
Correct. Yeah. The number is not important. They will, like I said, going back to that other page where it talked about the call signs, there are rules.
Uh-huh.
You can't be, you can't just be willy-nilly with your call sign. It has to be, this many letters in the prefix and that many letters in the suffix. And sometimes, it's 2 by 2. Sometimes it's 2 by 3. Sometimes it's 1 by 3. There's different things that you are allowed, but they're only, there are rules. And some of the letter things are not allowed. And I'm trying to remember, there was one I thought would be kind of cool.
And I just realized it's 9:01, so I don't want to take up more of your time.
Oh man.
Question.
Thanks. All right, so I will try to go quickly and get through. Are we all good for me to keep going? Because we're almost done. All right, I'm not hearing anybody complain, so I'm gonna keep going. Who may select a desired call sign or a vanity call sign? Anybody who's already got a license. So until you have your license, you can't get a vanity. So you can't apply for the vanity and then get your license. No, you got to have a license first. Which of the following is a valid technician call sign? All of these are really valid call signs, but for technician, this 2x3 is the only one that's valid. And we're done. Whew, made it. So, are there any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
No problem, no problem.
all right, where's my,
Good show, Mike.
yeah, Mike,
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I appreciate all the questions too. I like all the questions because then